This morning, you probably made a choice. You decided whether or not to exercise. You weighed the options. You thought about motivation, about time, about whether your body felt ready. You may have gone to a gym, or you may have skipped it. Either way, the fact that it was a choice at all would have been completely incomprehensible to every human who lived before you. For the vast majority of human history, your body was not something you trained. It was something you used, every single day, without question, without a membership fee, without a motivational playlist. Movement was not a category of activity you scheduled into your morning. It was the condition of being alive. And the results were extraordinary. Anthropologist Timothy Kieser at the University of Cambridge has spent years analyzing skeletal remains from ancient populations. What he found should make you stop and reconsider everything you think you know about human physical potential. The bone density of a typical ancient human, male or female, from almost any pre-agricultural society, exceeds the bone density of elite modern athletes in comparable training. Not average people. Elite athletes. The ancient body, living its ordinary life, was building structural strength that modern sports science struggles to replicate. So what were they actually doing? The answer is both simpler and stranger than you expect. They were not exercising. They were existing. And existing, for most of human history, was one of the most physically demanding things a body could do. Start with walking. Not the 30-minute morning walk you track on your phone. The kind of walking that begins before sunrise and does not end until after dark. Anthropologist Herman Pontzer, whose research at Duke University focuses on human energy expenditure across cultures, has studied modern hunter-gatherer populations that still live close to ancient patterns. The Hadza people of Tanzania, one of the last remaining hunter-gatherer societies on Earth, walk between 9 and 14 kilometers every single day. Not as exercise, as the basic requirement of finding food. They do this across uneven terrain, carrying loads, in heat that would shut down a modern gym, and they do it without thinking about it. The same way you walk from your car to your front door. But walking was only the beginning. Your ancient ancestors squatted. Constantly. Not as a gym exercise with a barbell across their shoulders. As a resting position. As a cooking position. As a working position. In cultures without chairs, the deep squat is not an athletic movement. It is the default human posture of rest. Researcher Esther Gokale, who has studied posture across traditional cultures worldwide, has documented that populations without chairs maintain full hip mobility and lumbar stability well into old age, something that virtually disappears in chair-using populations by middle age. Your hips were designed to fold completely. Most modern bodies have forgotten how then there was carrying. Not a gym bag, not a backpack with a laptop, water, children, firewood, game, stone, grain. The loads that ancient humans carried routinely would qualify as strongman competition events today. Hadza women carry loads averaging 20% of their body weight for hours at a time. Ancient agricultural workers carried far more, across longer distances, as the baseline requirement of keeping their families alive. The muscles that modern people specifically train in isolation at a gym, the trapezius, the erector spinae, the glutes, the deep core, were in ancient humans developed not through targeted exercises but through the simple, constant act of carrying the world they lived in, and then they sprinted not on a treadmill at a controlled pace. In short explosive bursts when something was chasing them or when they were chasing something. Evolutionary biologist Daniel Lieberman at Harvard University has argued that the human body is one of the most remarkable distance-running machines ever evolved, capable of persistence hunting, of chasing prey across open terrain for hours, until the animal collapses from heat exhaustion. The human foot, with its arch and its heel. The human glute, the largest muscle in the body. The human ability to sweat and thermoregulate at a level no other land animal can match. All of these are adaptations to a life in which running was not optional. It was survival, and interspersed with that endurance capacity was explosive speed. The burst of a chase, the leap over an obstacle, the sudden sprint that meant the difference between eating and starving. They also climbed not a climbing wall at a fitness center, trees, cliffs, rocky terrain. The grip strength required to scale a tree for fruit or honey, which chimpanzees and ancient humans both did regularly, builds forearms and hand muscles that modern people rarely develop even with dedicated training. Studies of traditional societies where tree climbing persists show grip strength levels in adults that exceed the 95th percentile of modern athletic populations. Your hands were built to hold, pull, and climb. For most of human history, They did exactly that every day. Now consider what all of this means for the concept of rest. In the ancient world, rest was earned and it was real. When your body had walked 14 kilometers, carried 20 kilograms of water, sprinted after a gazelle, dug roots from hard ground, and climbed a tree to escape a predator, rest was not passive. It was recovery, the kind of deep, total physical exhaustion that modern sleep scientists identify as the trigger for the most restorative sleep stages. You did not need a white noise machine. You did not need a sleep supplement. Your body collapsed into rest the way a machine powers down after maximum output, completely and without argument. This is one of the most underappreciated consequences of modern life. We have removed the physical demand that made sleep automatic, and in removing the demand, we have broken the mechanism. But there is something even more interesting hidden inside the ancient pattern of movement, something that modern exercise science is only beginning to understand. Ancient physical activity was almost never continuous. It was varied. It was irregular. It mixed long, slow movement with sudden, explosive effort. It engaged the whole body across a full range of motion rather than isolating specific muscle groups. It was, in the language of modern exercise research, instinctively periodized, meaning the body got hard days and easy days not by following a training program, but because the demands of the environment naturally created that variation. A day of hunting might involve hours of slow tracking followed by a brutal sprint. A day of gathering might involve miles of walking and digging with no high-intensity moments at all. A day of building or moving camp might involve heavy lifting and carrying for hours. And then there would be days of relative rest, when food was plentiful and the camp was settled. The body adapted to unpredictability. It was strong and resilient not in one specific way, but across every physical demand the world could throw at it. Modern exercise, for all its sophistication, struggles to replicate this. You can go to the gym 5 days a week, follow a perfectly designed program, and still develop mobility restrictions, chronic joint issues, and postural imbalances, simply because the controlled, isolated nature of modern exercise is a pale imitation of the chaotic full-body demands your skeleton and musculature were built for. The ancient body was also never still for long. Researcher James Levine at the Mayo Clinic coined the term NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, to describe all the physical movement in a human day that is not formal exercise. Walking to the refrigerator, fidgeting in a chair, standing up to answer a question. In ancient humans, NEAT was not a supplement to physical activity. It was the majority of it. And accumulating evidence suggests that this low-level constant movement, the baseline hum of a body that is always slightly in use, has metabolic benefits that intense exercise sessions cannot fully replace. The ancient body was never fully off. It idled at a level of activity that modern bodies rarely reach even on their most active days. There is something quietly devastating about sitting with this. You were built for a world that no longer exists. Your skeleton is the skeleton of a persistence hunter. Your cardiovascular system is the cardiovascular system of a long-distance traveler. Your hands are the hands of a climber and a carrier. Your hips are the hips of a creature that never owned a chair, and every single day, you live inside a body that is exquisitely, precisely, almost embarrassingly well designed for physical demands that your life no longer places on it. The gym is your attempt to give that body what it is asking for. The morning run is your attempt to honor what your legs were built to do. The yoga class is your attempt to return range of motion to joints that were never meant to sit at 90 degrees for 8 hours. They are imperfect solutions to a mismatch between what your body evolved to do and what your world now asks of it. Your ancient ancestor did not need motivation to move. They did not need a reminder on their phone. They did not need a gym membership or a running shoe or a fitness influencer. They moved because the world demanded it, because the food did not come to them, because the water had to be carried, because the shelter had to be built, because the child on their back had to be carried over the hill before dark. The choice you make every morning, whether to exercise or not, is one of the strangest luxuries in the entire history of your species. And the fact that it feels like discipline, like effort, like something you have to push yourself to do, says everything about how far your world has drifted from the one your body was built for. Tonight, when you sit down and your body sinks into the chair and your muscles go quiet, know that somewhere underneath that stillness, an ancient engine is running, waiting to be used, built for a world where the choice was never yours to make, just like this morning when you decided whether to move, and your ancient ancestor simply did.